Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back to the Animous, and today we are going to be reviewing the WUJI Master Grade 1100 Akatsuki Gundam. Now, to start this review, I would like to thank Gundam Model Center, or Gundam Central, for providing the kit for this review. I always like to start off my reviews with what tools I use during the build, which is very important considering that some of you might not be familiar with how to build, these types of kits that are third party. So to start, I do have two sets of nippers here. I do have my GodHands and I do have my Hobby Mio. So I noticed that a lot of you asked me about why do I use two single-bladed nippers when I'm building. Usually I just use the Hobby Mio, or I would use my off-brow one that I have from Hobbytown to make that first cut, and then after that I would just clean it up with the GodHand. The other tools that I used in this build, I use a part separator. The part separator I used in case that there were parts that when I was trying to close them in, they weren't closing as much as I would like, which meant that they would need a little bit of adjusting. And with that, then you have to separate your parts. So having a part separator is always recommended. Next tools that I used are going to be two different types of hobby knives. Now, when I say two different types, it means that the blade itself are two different blades. And the reason why I use two different ones is because of the angles or areas where the nubs or extra plastic might have been in, and if I had to drill out holes or anything like that, then I would always like to be ready. That's why I use two different blades. The next tool I used was my glass file. Right, so first things first, just because I want to get it out of the way, when you are building this specific kit, you will be left over with a lot of parts, and I mean a lot of parts. Like, I have a plastic bag, and these are all runners that were leftover parts. And upon further inspection, they're all Strike Gundam parts. So take your pick. You will have a lot of leftover parts for Strike Gundam. So in case you ever need any parts, well, you're gonna know where to find them if you do decide to get this kit. And it's a lot, let me tell you. From some of the runners that you also have parts left over, you will have parts left over from the Shiranui backpack, and it's gonna be basically an extra Dragoon part. Which is fine, in case somebody breaks it or whatever, then you have that extra one. I didn't put it together. I just make sure I cleaned it up real good and set it to the side. And then you will also have parts left over for your base. Now onto the accessories and weapons, right? So the only two weapons that are missing here are going to be the Dragoons, which are in the Shiranui pack, and then the actual railguns that are in the Owashi pack. So this is all the extra additional parts and weapons that it brings. Now, for your actual standard weapon, so it does have the rifle here. It does have a clear part that goes in here. Mind you, this does not have any type of reflective sticker or anything like that, so you can just see through it into the white. It is not colored either. However, if you did want to paint it with a clear color, then you can do so and it would look amazing. One thing that I did like about this weapon itself is that it does have a way to attach it onto the belt, which I will show you how to do it later. It does not, you know, if you don't want to use it or have it in use while you're posing, you can still equip it onto the mobile suit and it looks great. So aside from that, you do have your standard colors and everything is the same color. You do not have any color separation aside from the actual reticle, which is not that bad. You do have the white and then the clear part in there. Now moving on to the shield. So the shield in itself does have color separation all across the board. You do have separate parts. This is not a sticker, you know, this is all one single part, separate part, and then the black part is not a decal either. It is a separate part. Now I do wish they would have made a little bit more color separation when it came to the inner frame for this kit, but I'm guessing that that would have increased cost for the kit. Aside from that, it does have your attachments here which you can rotate. It also has a handle which you can switch over in case you want to equip it on the mobile suit itself. And if when it's not in use, you can just set it up like that. And I want to make sure that you pay attention to the gold in this kit. Even though this kit does not have a gold plated finish, it is still a nice clean finish all across the board, especially for those of us that like to clear coat our kits. So the kit also includes 2 sabers. Now these sabers are completely color separated, and aside from being completely color separated, it is not just 2 parts on each one. It actually divided into 3 parts, or into 4 parts actually if you count the hilt. Now one thing that I want to mention is that this will also attach to each other, so it does have that, if that, you know, that similar familiar, you know, feeling that we get from Strike Freedom and all these other mobile suits from Seed. I really enjoyed that mechanism there. The only good thing about that is that you need to make sure that you watch out for one of these parts from coming off whenever you separate them, because they're a little bit loose. Now onto the beam effects itself. So you do have different sets of beams, and I really did enjoy the fact that they did not just put the standard beam sabers in this. They gave you literal beam effect parts. Like, I love that. And you know, it does familiarize itself with the series as well, so I really did enjoy that. And for those of you UV buffs that are out there, it is UV reactive. So in the event that you would like to pose it with some UV lights, then you would be able to do so as well. And one thing that I want to add for this, now these beam sabers are super sturdy. Like, they're super sturdy. So whenever you are cleaning them, please make sure to be extra gentle when you're cleaning the nubs on them, so you don't get like a chipping or anything like that. Especially if you're like me, where even though I love that these are clear parts, I usually, if I am going to use these beam effects on a model kit, I do paint them. So so just keep that in mind, so it'll look clean. Be gentle while cleaning them. Now one thing that I do want to mention as well is that this kit came with a lot of hand options, and that is not to also include the ones that are on the kit, which are the fully articulated hands, right? I have to admit that I am a little surprised that it came with so many options. However, there's one thing that I couldn't shake off in some of these, and it's the fact that the back piece for the hands fall off very easily from the hand itself, right? So if you're looking at this, I'm just barely touching it, see, and it just fell off, right? So that's one thing that I can say that I do not like about that. However, that could easily be fixed with a little bit of tack, or if you're going to just use these types of hands, then you could just glue it on, and that's not a problem at all. The one that it was very sturdy when I put it on was the one that had the open hand, which is, you know, the standard. But the other fit, like the closed fist and the holding and then the trigger fingers, they had issues holding onto the back plate for the back fist. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the decals and water slide decals. Now, I know that I mentioned that this kit before in the unboxing had the color correcting stickers. The color correcting stickers do not really impede you from building the kit, and they do not look terrible. However, I would recommend painting the kit. I did use some of them just for the sake of this video and review, so that way you guys can see how they look and have an example, and then make a decision on your own whether or not you want to use them. However, I want to tell you right now that the red ones are terrible, and we'll go from there. So moving on to the water slide decals, it is very unfortunate, but this model kit does not bring a water slide decal manual. So when you are looking through the manual and you finish building your kit, it does not have that. So if you do have the manual for the Dragon Momoko, or another manual that you want to use, or maybe picture references, then you want to use that instead. For the sake of the review of this video, I did not install any of the water slide decals because I don't believe in putting on water slide decals wherever you want. If the kit is supposed to get the water slide decals in a specific place, then I would like to do that instead, because I don't want to half-ass it, right? So the other thing that it brings these metallic water slide decals. So these metallic water slide decals are for the base itself, and I really do love that they're in this kind of darker gold, but again, it didn't have a guide to install the water slide decals, so I decided not to. I did look online to see if I could find some references for the water slide decals, but I was not able to find any. If any of you that are watching this video have seen the water slide decal manual for this kit or the Dragon Momoko kit, and you want to share it with me, that would be great, because I'm still looking for it, and and if I do find it, I'll make sure to share the link below. Now, I know that I mentioned that it brought water slide decals for the base itself. Now, I do want to bring your attention to the base. So this is one of those metal build bases. Again, this did not bring any instructions in the manual. I actually had to Google the manual online from another Daban or Dragon Momoko kit, so that way I could build it. And then go from there. Right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the packs, right? So the first one we got here is a Shiranui pack. I want to say right now that these packs are super back heavy, and even though I do enjoy the fact that they included both packs in here, I would have liked that the model kit itself was a little bit sturdier in regards to being able to stand on its own two legs with the backpacks on. So if you are going to use any type of effect parts or anything like that, be very gentle when you're taking them out, so you don't break them when you take them out. So that one slides right back in. It goes as so. So one thing that I did notice about this kit is that it does not bring any parts or effect parts to display the Dragoon effect on. I would have definitely loved that for this kit, being as it's one of the big high pieces for that. However, this pack does have a lot of shelf presence, so if you do find something online that you can use as a medium to display those effect parts, then you can do that as well. Overall build was very sturdy for this, pretty straightforward. I did not have any problems with parts that did not fit or they didn't go where they go. I don't have any stiffness. Everything is solid and sustained there with the backpack. Now, one thing about Seed kits that I've always criticized, and this is not a difference here, is that the peg for the backpack itself, it is a very thin peg. So when you are posing it, all the weight just hangs onto that peg, and if you hold it with your hand, you can feel the pressure on it. So let's go ahead and grab the kit, and so that way you guys can see how it looks, right? So when you're going to put the backpack on the kit itself, you have to make sure that you're very gentle and you press it all the way in for it to display. And look at that. It just commands presence, right? Because it is a big backpack. I really enjoyed building this model kit. It does not want to stand on its own with the backpack on. So the only way to actually display the backpack on is to try and stand it up and balance it. And even then, the backpacks are a little bit too heavy, so it's always recommended to always use a base. Now, the next pack we're going to talk about is going to be the Owashi unit, and I love this. Like, you have no idea. This thing is a mind of its own, and it does have a problem with this falling off, which I didn't want to have to talk about until later, but I guess we'll just talk about it now. So the only issue with this part of the kit is the fact that the missiles keep falling off even if you try to secure them in there. But aside from that, this thing is an absolute unit. Now, the one thing I do have a problem with is going to be also always color correcting stickers. So I think that this part right here would have been better if it would have just been a red part that we could just slide on there instead of just a white part and then having to use a color correcting sticker. But like I said, you can paint that. So if you do decide to get this kit, I would avoid using the sticker and just go ahead and paint it. So as you all know, this backpack, what it does is that it transforms into a backpack for the model kit itself. And to do that, all you have to do is go ahead and raise the cockpit here. You do have some color correcting stickers that go in there, but they do not impede any type of transformation or anything like that. It's just a little bit of color separation that you can't even see when the backpack is equipped on its own. So the other thing I want to talk about is that for this backpack itself, you do have a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. Like, for example, you have the thrusters back here, the verniers back there. You have the wing. The wing flaps have its own action where you can just go ahead and move them to adjust in case you were doing some of these action poses there for your model kit. And I really did enjoy that for this. You need to make sure that you're very careful when you are moving the rail guns. Basically because for some reason, and I am not sure why, maybe it's something that I did, these rotating elbows are a little weird, and they don't rotate evenly. They just clip onto the next area and that's it. So what I do is that I just completely get the rail guns out of the way to go ahead and equip it on the mobile suit itself. Look at that. In my opinion, I really like this backpack better. You know, it just looks great in my opinion. But you know, everybody's gonna like different backpacks, which is great, which is why I also enjoy the fact that they include both of them. And if you do want to display it with either one, you can always pose the other one on the side as an accessory, which I think is great as well. Most people, what they do is that they go ahead and install the Shiranui pack, and then they have the Awashi as a separate unit, which is great when posing. So look at that. Now again, like any other C kit, it is not going to stand up by itself with the backpack. So again, base is always recommended when putting on these packs. As far as build quality goes for this backpack, I did not, like I said, I did not have any issues or fitment issues when building the backpack. And, you know, I didn't have any loose parts. I do want to bring your attention to some parts that are in here. Like, for example, if you can see or kind of see like a little white piece of small plastic that's in there. I guess that would be my only complaint when it comes to this kit, and is the fact that they make you cut a small piece of white plastic and just stick it in there so it holds the wing flap in. But then again, if you move the kit too much, you might lose that one small white piece. Keep a lookout for that. Take it with a grain of salt. Now, the railgun itself does have an extending motion with some detail. Now, I do want to say that it is a little loose when you take it, when you go ahead and extend it. So if you are going to pose, expect a little bit of drooping here and there. So normally what I would do is I would just open them a little bit and then display them like that, or you could just close them all completely and display them. Now, it does have some color correcting stickers that go in some of these railgun effects. However, the color correcting stickers are black, so it doesn't really bring out any effects that you will want. So you're not really missing much if you do not put them on. And on to the main piece of this review, which is going to be the actual Akatsuki Gundam. Now, I want to say it right. I want to say this right now because I'm pretty sure some of you asked me already. Did this have a third-party, lots of problems type of feel when building? It did not. It did not. It did not at all. I love the fact that most of the parts were undergated. I do have gripes because some of the parts that were not undergated, you can actually see the nub mark here and there. For example, the biggest example I can give you is the wrist there. You can see that in the effect part. In the gold part, you can still see that it has a little nub there, which you can touch up with some gold. And if you look for other nub marks around the kit, they're barely visible. And if you do catch them, you might see them, and they're going to be very minimal. So for those of you that are worried about gold and nub marks, it's not really that noticeable. Because of the reflection and the type of plastic that they use underneath the paint, you can barely see it when the light reflects on it. Now, as for the hands, so for the hands for this kit, I decided to leave the fully articulated hands on there. So these hands are fully articulated to the joints, and each finger is separately articulated, so you can go ahead and pose the hands however you want. I really did like this type of hand, so I went ahead and left it on there. I understand that it might not be as sturdy as other hands, but to me, it's the one that looks the best out of the set that it brings. Please keep in mind that articulated hands like these are super delicate, so whenever you are posing, try not to force the fingers to close or anything like that, because if you are forcing it to close, it might not like it and it will snap off. And trust me when I say this, there is no way to fix this if it breaks. So the kit itself is fully articulated as you would expect from a Strike Gundam, seeing as it uses the Strike Gundam frame to articulate its parts. So I did not have any issues while posing. However, if you are trying to do poses like that one, or extend your legs too much, parts will start falling off like they do with any other model kit. As for the arms, you do have full rotation on all the arms. Now, please keep in mind that the shoulder pieces are separate armor pieces, like they are on the Strike Gundam as well, or any other mobile suit from Gundam Seed. So keep in mind that whenever you are posing your kit, you don't separate your arms as much as you can, because sometimes it'll just pop off the peg itself. Now, the other thing that I want to remind everyone is that third-party kits usually do have a lot of problems when it comes to building, and I always promise to, be honest in all my reviews, and this is not going to be any different. And I'll keep saying that throughout my whole time making videos. This kit was definitely a breath of fresh air compared to other third-party kits I've been building so far, especially that 160 new. Mainly because I've been having so many issues and having to sand and drill and and do all those sand off pegs and drill out holes and all that stuff. This kit did not have any of that, which I was very thankful for. Now you can notice that I did not use any of the water slide decals or panel line this kit. The reason being, I want to make sure that whenever I put the water slides on this kit, I'm able to gloss coat it as well. Because I want to give it that shine. Now, I will not do that without actually properly panel lining first, but to do that, I'm waiting to see if I can find a manual so I can go ahead and install all the water slides in their respective places, panel line, and top coat. Now, for the arm joints, you do have your full mobility in the arm. It does have a double action, however, it is a little bit stiff. So just keep that in mind when you are posing this kit, that you have to be gentle with all the joints. Now, I am sure that all of you that are watching handle your kits with care, but let's face it, there's some people that don't. Please make sure to remind yourself to be gentle when handling these types of kits. As far as the hip goes, it does not have a lot of front and back, but it does have a mechanism that handles the waist, so you can twist your waist side to side, and you can go side to side here. You could go around, but the only problem with that is that you have your back thruster here, which will block you from doing a full turn. So just keep that in mind. Articulation for the feet, you do have your standard feet. You cannot move this too much, like at the tip of the toe, it will not move too much, so it doesn't have that much flexibility. But when you are posing, it does rotate nicely to get that stance and that support that you need. Now, talking about the negatives for the kit, or the cons for the kit. So having that Gundam Seed hip joint issue, it is a problem, considering that these hips take a little bit longer to get loose once you install them. And you might run into problems, so keep that in mind whenever you are posing this kit. Again, please be very gentle. The other con that I noticed with this kit while building it is that the inner frame in itself was not undergated, so you can still see a little bit of nut marks. The only good thing about that is that the inner frame itself was metallic injection, so it's not that noticeable when it comes to nut marks. But I do have that gripe because I feel that, they could have undergated the whole kit to avoid any issues. So the other con that I have with this kit is going to be the cockpit in itself. So the cockpit is supposed to have a locking mechanism that you can use to go ahead and lock it. And it's making me look bad right now. Okay, here we go. See, so usually what you will do is that you'll go ahead and lift it up and then bring the cockpit down. The problem is that this specific part right here that specific part right there sometimes will pop off while you're trying to pose your kit, and it'll become annoying at times, but if you can deal with that, then it's not a problem. This kit does not bring pilots on in it, so if you're trying to get your pilots, you're gonna probably have to get them somewhere else. So aside from that, detail, in regards to detail and sturdiness of the kit is sturdy in itself, although it's very shameful that, like all other seed kits, it cannot carry the backpack on its own. One thing that I do want to mention about the gold parts is that even though they are not gold plated, they do have a shine to them. So if you decide to gloss coat this kit, it'll definitely bring that shine out from that. This kit has color separation when it comes to the gold, so it does have different shades of gold and different finishes. And you know, when you're ordering a kit like this, you should always look out for scratches on the panels. Now, I did have some gold parts that were scratched. There's nothing I can do about that unless I decide to repaint the whole kit. So just keep a lookout for that and then go from there. And that is it for today's video. I would like to thank everyone who watched this video. You know, you guys are the reason why I do this, and I know that you guys have enjoyed the other reviews that I've done, and the feedback has been great. So I'll just keep on going strong on that. One thing that I do want to mention as well is that, you know, for those of you that have been following my builds on social media, thank you so much for that. And stay tuned, because the next video that we have is going to be one of the surprising videos. We do have the Sky Defender on the table as well, which is going to get built on the channel. Plus, we're still working on the 160 new, so keep a lookout for that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.